Hello and welcome back again to MBAbullshit.com. So our topic for this video is WACC, or the weighted average cost of capital. So before anything else, remember you can always go back to MBAbullshit.com. There are lots of different videos on business topics for business students, MBA students, business college students, BBA students, etc. Alright, but before we move on, I'd like to point out that I highly recommend that before watching this video, you should already understand the concepts of present value, future value, internal rate of return, and cost of equity. Alright, if you don't know those yet, then you might want to first watch my other free videos on these topics above. Alright, so let's get down to it. So first of all, before we move on, I'd like to ask you first, what is the meaning of capital in a business? Now, I'm not talking about the capital of America, Washington, D.C. or whatever. When we talk about a business, what do we mean by capital? Well, it talks about the money which is used to start or run or expand a business. Alright, so for example, in this case here, let's say you want to put up a store business. You'll need money so that you can buy the products to sell in the store, so that you can buy the shelves in the store, so that you can buy the uniforms in the store, and things like that. So the money that you use to start your business is called capital. Alright? Now the next question is, where does capital come from when you put up a business? Well, there are two main sources. There's usually two places from where you get capital. The first place is, or the first way is to borrow from banks. Okay? So sometimes you don't have enough money to put up your own business, and so you borrow money from the banks, and this is called debt. Alright? Now, DEBT, debt. Now, the next source, or the other main source, is when the owners or the investors, such as yourself, put your own money into the company. Alright? And this is called equity. Alright, so in MBA bullshit language, or in business bullshit language, we don't say borrowing from the banks, because it doesn't sound too good, it doesn't sound too sophisticated. So instead we say debt. And when the owners put their own money in the company, it doesn't sound so pretty either. So we use the word equity. Right? So now, let's ask ourselves, what is the cost of debt? Alright? Now remember, debt is different from the cost of debt. Alright? So what is the difference? What is the cost of debt? Well, remember that debt means you're borrowing from the bank. And so, the cost of debt means, or usually means, the bank interest rate percentage that is charged to your company. So, for example, remember, when the bank lends you money, they don't lend you the money for free. The bank needs to earn money from lending you money. So, the bank will charge you an interest rate. So for this example, let's just pretend, let's just assume that it is 5%. Okay? Now, let's go to the next source of capital, which is equity. And we also ask, what is the cost of equity? All right, when you put your own money in the company, or when your investor or your friend maybe puts his money in your company so that he can be a partner in your company, or he can be a shareholder in your company. Well, many people think that when you put your own money in a company, or when an investor puts his or her own money in a company, then it's free, right? Because you don't have to pay interest rate of 5% like with debt. Okay, so people think that the cost of equity is free. Well, actually it's not free. All right, it's not free. Why is it not free? Because there's what we call an expected return or an expected profit from these owners or investors. If your friend, or maybe not your friend, your investor, like this scary lady over here, puts her money in your company, it's because she expects to earn money from putting her money in your company. Alright, she expects to earn money from her investment. Alright, and this is called an expected return. Alright, and it's usually higher than bank interest rates. Why is it higher than that? Because if you are gonna pay her, or if she is gonna earn less than the bank interest rates, then it's better for her to put her money in a risk-free deposit in the bank instead of in your company. Alright? So usually this is higher. Now, so in this case, let's just pretend that it's 10%. Okay? Let's just pretend that it's 10%. However, in other problems, it might not be as simple as 10%. Maybe in our case, I'm giving you the information. I'm telling you it's 10%. But in other cases, you might be given other information, and then you would have to compute this amount yourself using the CAPM, or the Capital Asset Pricing Model, or cost of equity formula, which I already talked about in my other video. But in this case, let us just pretend that we already know that the expected return, the expected profit of the owner or of the investor is 10%. Alright? So now we move on. So now let's ask ourselves the next question. What is the cost of capital? Remember, capital comes from either debt or it comes from equity. So what is the cost of capital? Well, it's easy. It depends. Where did you get your money to start or run the company? Did you get it from debt, or did you get it from equity? Where did you get it? Which one did you get it from? Okay? Now, if you got your money from bank borrowing at 5% interest, as you remember from the last slide, then your cost of capital is exactly the same as your cost of debt, which is 5%. Okay? You remember here, it's 5%. So it's the same. Alright? It's the same. If you got your money from bank borrowing at 5%, then your cost of capital is the same. It is also 5%.